All right, I wish I could say good morning, starting in the afternoon, but it's already technically afternoon, and I have my favorite techie here today with me. Sort of hiding there. Let's see. If I keep moving around, she'll keep moving around. All right, so we're here today to talk to you about working with sketches, because we both create, but we create differently, and we also inspire each other to do different things as well. And so that's what we want to share with you today, because it's all about sometimes the hardest part of card making or doing a scrapbook page and everything is coming up with the design itself, right? So working with sketches is a great solution, and so we thought today would be a great way to show you how we both do things differently, but we still create cards or scrapbook pages or whatever else we want to do. She's actually doing embroidery right now. So I do embroidery, but I do a different type of embroidery. So it's sharing you the things of how we do that and so forth and all. So one of the things I want to start off with is, what is a sketch and how does it work? Well, a sketch is, right, for us, it's either a pattern or design. It could be a template roughly drawn out or an outline, where to place various elements and so forth as you build a card or a scrapbook page. And so the thing is that it can be a line drawing, a picture of an existing card, or it could be a person interpreting the elements of a sketch and you can come up with something different and you build your own version based on that and so forth and all. So that's what we're going to show you, a little bit of what we do when we each individually build our own cards, because we have our own separate work areas. Sometimes we work together, but we create a lot of chaos and a lot of mess that somebody has to clean up, right? So we're going to show you what we do. If we have time and allows it, we'll do a scrapbook page. We're going to focus on cards first. And I'm going to let Jennifer lead off first, because Jennifer taught me something that I had never done and so forth. And so we're going to start off with her. All right, we can go down the hands and let's get started. By the way, Judy Allen here, my techie there, Jennifer Skinner. Whoop, whoop. She saves me all the time. All right, Jennifer, you get started.
All right, so what I like to do, I'm going to move some of these beautiful cards around, is I have in the past liked to do different methods. And you can see even up here, I've even punched out, tried to figure out how I want to lay out. But I like to do is using this grid. I like to sketch out whatever I'm doing. So these right here, of course, are all 3x3s. And then this one is your standard card right here. So you can see how I went. And I normally just use, when I stamp, especially if I want to try to do an idea of what I want to stamp, I normally use like a gray, just very neutral, so I can figure out later on what I want to do. And like this, like here, I was like, okay, I could do ribbon, or originally I might want to do this. So I just played around with what I wanted on the different things. Same here, I stamped it, did two different ones. This one, of course, it allows you to really play with it without wasting any materials. Because sometimes I'm not sure what the color is or whatever. And here's another one where it's kind of playing with the stamps, because I wasn't sure exactly how I wanted the stamp, so I stamped different ones just to see what I wanted to do on a card. And then I went in and stamped it because I wanted to kind of see what I was going to get myself into, essentially. And of course, making notes of which different stamp sets I use, just in case I get confused later on, like which stamp sets did I use? And I want to say these are a couple other ones where you just sketch it out. And like on this one, going back to this, like I colored it real quick, stamped them out, and then placed them on top to see what it would look like, doing a punch out, essentially. And then like this is a good example. This one, you draw out your lines, making sure you get the right measurements. And like this, I stamped it off because that's what I was going to do, is stamp off the card so you would have literally a card looking like that. So you get the same effects, but without having to, wasting the materials, and you got it all going there on your pages. And of course, this allows you to do like, okay, I kind of like what this card looks like, but let me try doing another card, tweaking it, see which one I like more. You can have your nice comparisons, I would say.
And for me, I don't create this way because some of this stuff drives me crazy, seeing all the lines and not the blank paper. But what I do love when Jennifer does this is I see her design and I go, oh, I can go create that. And I don't even have to draw it out because drawing it out drives me crazy. But I can take what she's done and I'll go and create. But other people love to draw out. And here's just another example of something that she did. And again, because we work with 3x3 cards, so here's some here. And for me, I just winged it. I just go and stamp, and then I colored. That doesn't always work, but here's a couple of other ones. I just stamped, and I add some embellishments. This is what Jennifer did. And yeah, and this is, I don't know if you practiced with this one or not, but the 3x3s are really cute.
I practiced doing the stamping method, and then I cut out the ones I liked.
Then you cut out the ones you like? I like that. So, I mean, it's here's another one. Here's another one she did. Here,
Yeah.
where you sit there and I like the fact that she sits there and puts those down. I'm not good about writing down my stuff, so I have to go then and go digging through stamps to figure out what I did when I created something if I don't have them right handy. And let me put here. But here's what I did for one thing. So for me, I do just the backwards. It's like I've already created it, so then I go and draw it. And I wrote it, and I did it that way. This is for my triple layering stamp, just to give you an idea. But for me, for the easiest thing for me is I actually, see if I can clip this. I don't think either one of these are white. Let me get something solid here for you can see it with all the lines behind it. See, we're all different. So for me, I actually created these sets of cards here that are different dimensions, and they're all just 1/4 inch down. And we'll put these templates out on Instagram later with the measurements and also you have it. And I just measure them all 1/4 inch down. And the reason for that is that I can take some cardstock, this blank cardstock. This is your typical size card. This is just 8.5 by 11 cut in half, and you fold it in half to create your card. This is the lengthwise cut in half, and you fold it in half, and you have your card. So when I go to create, lots of times mine is just beautiful paper and I thumb through the paper. So here's where I just took paper, cut it where it wasn't halfway right down the middle, just so one was larger and the other was smaller, and I just flipped it over and put it down. But I actually used this to see which size I wanted to go. So if I went and used these here, you would see that I used a 4 by 5 1/4 piece of paper. And for me that's easier than dragging out a ruler or whatever else. But so for me, when I create, I like to take paper. And I don't know about you, Jennifer. Do you just take paper sometimes and create?
Yeah.
Yep. So I go through and I just pick paper. Like this is all one set, 6 by 6. And I thumb through here and I take some papers that I like the combinations of. And then I just cut them. I take four sheets usually. And then that way I can shuffle them around. Sort of like a stack and shuffle, but on a, just using 2 layers. And then I create something like this. So this is a 4 1/4. And this is why I love these things. So if you wanted to know, you just bring it up. This is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I literally just cut it at 3 1/2 inches down. And I took one of the other papers and flipped it over. And I had a card. And I used the leftover on that 6 by 6 to just use it right here as a design. So for me, I get inspired by paper. Yep, if you're out there, just say hello. And this here, for example, is just paper. There was no design. This is, if you go on any of the papers, and you create and so forth and all. Hi, Rebecca. If you go on the back of, on this particular card, this is a 3 by 3 1/2. But if you go on back, you give me that paper right there. That one doesn't have it. On most of the cardstock, when you buy it, or the paper, this is paper here from Beauty of the Earth, and you flip it on back, it'll tell you which cardstock that Stampin' Up! Recommends. You can use that or not use it, it's up to you. But in this particular case, this is nothing more than a scrap piece of paper we had by 3 by 3 1/2. And I would say we use scrap pieces of paper quite often.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very common. We just use scrap pieces of paper that we have left over. And this was simply, I cut that piece of paper in half, separated it about 1/4 inch or less, and just put a tag on it and some embellishments. And then I use this here as a background. Again, it was coordinating colors that were recommended by Stampin' Up. So those were simple cards. These are very, what I would call simple cards. These are our simple, basic cards. Do we do more complicated cards than that besides using these different steps? Absolutely. Here's a good one that Jennifer will tell you that she came home and came and checked me out in my work area and saw that.
Left home, she had 5 cards, came back, she had 30.
All right, it's paper. I love the paper, but the thing is, you can see is I sat there and used a 4 by 5 1/4 solid piece, and then I turned around and let's see what size I used. It looks like that's most probably it, 3 1/4 by 4 1/2, but I used a die cut to give me this cut here. So when I go and make decisions, I literally go and take cardstock like this, and I'll say, gee, what sizes? I already have my paper picked out. I can do anything with paper. Give me some paper and I'll show you what to do with it. So that's all I do. It's like I sort of get in my mind. I just take my little templates that I've already drawn out. In this particular case, I really wanted to see that orange paper there, and so I did that. So that depends on what you want. And if I wanted something smaller and I wanted to be able to see, and I don't have to, I'll show you a card where we just actually stamped. Let's see if I see it handy. I don't see it. I just actually stamped the background here with the stamp set. And then I turned around and did this in a yellow. And all I did is I wanted to be able to see the background. And then I had this right here in the center. So that's all we do is with the different little templates like this is seeing what size. Can you do cross the sizes? Absolutely. You could sit there and take this here and say, hey, let me do another colored paper here. You might want to even do smaller. The smallest I went down to was 2 1/2 by 3 1/4. But you know what? You can keep on going smaller because I can show you that here's a good example of the same thing. This is nothing more than 1 1/2 inch squares. I loved all the paper. I couldn't decide what I wanted to do. So I sat up there and cut out 1 1/2 inch squares, and I just put them together. And 2 totally different paper sets. You can see that I've turned around and I've used the 4 by 5 1/4 here, and I just die cut it. And on this one, I actually had some pretty paper that I wanted behind it that's the same size, but because I die cut this, it allows it to show through some in this here. And these are just scraps. This is scrap paper. This blue here was scrap paper. It was beautiful paper. I didn't want to throw it away. I thought, well, I'll just use it, and that's what I did. So those are just some of the simple, quick, and easy things that we do to sort of just throw, if I could say, throw some cards together. But when you have beautiful paper, to me, it's an easy thing to do. Some other ways that we take a look at it, and I'll show you an example of that. I don't know if you do this too, Jennifer, but this card here was actually taken from an idea from somebody else. So the ideas aren't necessarily just from the way we do it, right? Yeah. It could be that we've seen somebody else's card or we've seen something else. Well, this wasn't somebody else's card. This was somebody's Christmas gift wrapping. They literally, you see how this paper's folded? That is how they folded their Christmas wrapping paper on Christmas packages that they gave out. And the reason why I created this, because I was inspired because the person told me they weren't creative, and I thought, I'm going to show you. I'm going to take you what you created with wrapping paper, right?
Yeah.
And I showed the person how I could take their concept, what they did with wrapping paper, and make it into a beautiful card. So it's not just inspired by our squares and things that we do here. Many a times, like I said, it's scrap paper. We have this here's a good example here. Here's a piece of scrap paper. But you know what? I flip it over, and look what I have. I have green. And you know what? By measuring this here, I could easily take this and add something to it and make a card. And just stick it right in the middle of the cardstock, right? You stick it right in the middle of the cardstock.
I mean, like this particular card.
Here's another card, yeah.
This other card. So this I created. This was I stamped these. But this is something that was a scrap. And I colored, I got it. And I colored it and used it, It's almost like you don't want to waste your scraps. You can always use them. You just don't know how you're going to use them, but you're going to use them.
Right.
Because it's one of those things I made a whole bunch of little 3 by two
and 3/4 maybe.
It's like 2. So this is a perfect square. So this is maybe about, I think it's a 2 by 2 or 2 1/2 by 2 1/2. And then, because I cut all the paper, but I still had all these long strips. And so this was actually part of a longer strip. After I got done cutting, I'm like, that's fine. I don't know what I'm going to use it for yet. But that's okay. And I ended up cutting it and making it a card as a part of a background, which is really nice. It makes this pop. And so adds a little color so it's not too bland. So, so that's the nice thing when you have like, little scraps like this. It's a good example right here where you just add it as an accent too if you just want to do nothing but stamping.
Yep, I was checking out, as you said that, I was looking at the other piece of scrap right there, and I don't know if it's long enough or not, but looky here. Ooh, gosh, it is. See there? You can actually take 2 pieces of scrap right there.
That actually looks really
That's
nice.
actually, I know, and see, and we didn't even plan this. This is just, we have stuff thrown up here to show you as examples, but I'll most probably go create a card out of this now. Because you know what, it centers in a card nicely.
Yep.
The colors match really good, and it's a great way for me to use up my scrap paper. And this is nothing more than, let's see, what size are we? That's the other thing about this, is I don't have to go get a ruler every time I can measure this out. Okay, so this is height-wise a 3 3/4, and it is a little bit shy. It looks like about a 1/4 inch shy of being 2 1/2. And so they basically, when I put the two together, we're going to have a 3 3/4, which isn't one of the templates I have, but that's okay, right? I mean, that's how we do a lot of things, just by
Playing around.
Or we have get-togethers and we create together, and we just...
Sometimes you shake. It's like shaking up a bunch of dice and letting them roll, and you like, I like this design. It's just like all the pieces just fell together. You know?
So like this here, this will become a card, and we can post it for you, and we'll add. I don't know what we'll add. We'll add something down the center here, most probably a leftover piece. Whether it's this here, that's most probably not going to float my boat. We each have different color schemes we like. I'm not a big fan of purple, but I tell you what, if it's got gold foil on it, you'd be amazed what I can do with purple paper. I don't know what we could do. This might be a possibility. We just do a sliver.
Yes.
We'll have to look through our scraps, because I'm confident we have a scrap that's most probably a 1/4 to an 1/8 of an inch wide that we'll put right down there and make it a beautiful card. Maybe add a bling, put a little message to it, and there you go.
Yep.
So we still have a few minutes left, and so can I go ahead and show them what we do with scrapbooking?
Yeah.
Or did you have anything else you want to add here? All right, so I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask, because I really like the way that she sketches hers out, and I know there's a lot of people that sketch theirs out. That just doesn't work for me. I most of the time fly by the seat of my pants, maybe.
Go with the flow.
I go with the flow. Whatever. And I'm usually just inspired by the paper, either the paper or the stamp set.
And sometimes what I get into when I'm making a card is sometimes I get it and like it's still just not enough. And you know what's good? Sometimes you just walk away, go do something else. And then you come back and you're like, I know what I need. And normally it's Wink Costello or some bling, but
So we usually do something like this. It doesn't have to be a Christmas tree. They got all kind of different stuff out there. These are usually name tag holders for like if you were having an event or something. And we usually would just stick the cards up, and I know for me, I know about you, but we sort of do the same thing, is we'll just have this standing up in our work area, and we'll look at it. If we think it's off or something, we just leave it there to look at for a couple of days to figure out what we think they still need to add, or we'll ask each other, or we'll ask somebody else. And that's how we sort of do it, and it just makes it a lot easier. But I'm going to show you what we did with scrapbooking. Let's see here what all I got under here before I mess up the world. Oh, here it is. Here's what I was looking for. Here's what I was going to show you, that it was nothing more than I took a card from the template here that I was telling you earlier. Good guess. 2 3/4 by 4 inches. I had stamped the cardstock with the stamp, and then I just turned around and took just a plain, very vanilla paper and cut out this here, and I stamped it. I stamped a message, and that was a card. And I love the simple stamping, and that's why we do this. Keep it simple or step it up, because we always try to show you something simple and then show you stepped it up. Now, scrapbooking is a wholly different ball game. And, Jennifer wasn't here when I was working. Well, she was. She came and went, and that's just sort of how it goes when we work. But I actually had leftovers. I had a bunch of different stuff, and I have a tendency to pull out all the stuff that I have available, just so I see what I have to work with. And as you can see, I started off with a piece of white paper that was supposed to be that I could do all my work on. And then I didn't have any white paper like I'm supposed to have. I'm supposed to have a piece of white paper that I can stamp on. Well, I didn't have it, and I wasn't going to stop creating because I was on a roll and just different things coming. So I was busy testing out different things of what I thought I would like or wouldn't like, just to show you. And I wasn't sure if it was going to work in my layout that I sort of was working on. So I started cutting them out. So as you can see, I cut these out so that I could sit up there and figure out if it was going to work or not. So this is what I ended up with. This is nothing more than me. In this particular case, I had pieces left over. I created 2 different ones. So this one I created based on the pictures, and I worked around it. And then came and filled out what I wanted to fill in. And this one was just the opposite. This one, I had looking for leftover stuff and just seeing what kind of things. I just laid the stuff down. So nothing was glued down. I was just laying things down to see sort of what I would like and so forth and all. And then that's basically what I did. Is I took the leftovers. I didn't want it to look like my first one, right? I wanted it to be different. So what I did is I turned around and I just took other pieces and just kept on working with it and laying them out until I got what I wanted. And then this one I came and put the pictures in. So I did sort of just the reverse. Yeah. So we sort of do the same thing with cards, especially with die cut, but for the most part, more in the scrapbooking because it's a much larger piece and we didn't want too much white space, or I didn't want too much white space. I was trying to find it out. This is actually a gift and I don't have the permission from the person at this time to show you the pictures here, but anyway, this is a gift for someone, and like I said, I just took the scraps. So that's basically, I would say, how we operate, right?
Yeah. And another thing I want to talk about too, just real quick, is going back to when you have cards and you're trying to figure out what you want your layout to be. Mm-hmm. And we'll say we'll say like a card like this. And the nice thing about having your little templates like this, and this is what happens to me sometimes, is like, okay, I have this beautiful paper, and what am I gonna do? So I'll be like, you get the different colors like this. Okay, it's like I want this as my cardstock, my background. So I'll put this on next, and I'm like, okay, this is the size I want for the next paper, and I'll cut that paper out. And so let's just say, for sake of argument, this is my next paper, and I'm like, okay, well, what size do I want the next paper, especially when you're layering? And I'll be like, do I want this size, or do I want to have a little bit more so you can see more of this background? And that's the nice thing about when you have the templates, is that you can slowly kind of build your card too if you want to, and get an idea so you can see what you're working with. And I always think that's always a good idea. Because sometimes I'll also do where like, okay, what paper do I want to use? And then I'll first go like this, and kind of get an idea of how I want to layer it, and then go and see what kind of sizes I want to do. It's another kind of option you can do. I've built some cards recently like that because I really want to use this bumblebee paper, and I wasn't sure because I didn't want to cover up too much of the bumblebees. All right. But and that's the nice thing about having these slightly small, China doll kind of thing, or not China doll, but the Russian dolls, slowly get smaller and smaller and smaller. And then you can get that kind of idea of how much you want this type of paper peeking out. Right. So that's another good idea about having the nice thing about having the templates too.
Well, and just as you did that, I'm looking at this card here, and I'm thinking, wow, it would really look good if we made this card on this color of paper.
I know that does. It's really good color.
Right. So here's and lots of times things just happen because we toss things onto something else. But I can tell you right now, I will most probably go create this exact card. I might have to size it down just a little bit because I'll fold this green here in half, and then when I get through, I'm going to have a card on here where you'll see a little bit of the green because, that's what made it really stand out really. As we toss things around, and then we'll layer this up. And I would say that's lots of times how things sort of happen.
Like I said, it's like rolling dice, Right. You see where the dice fall, and that's where you go.
But there's a lot of inspiration online, whether it's here, where you come here, or you go somewhere else. You just go out there and look. There's other sites out there that they sit there and, you can change the color palette. You can use different stamp sets. I mean, there's just so many different combinations of things to do.
And that's why when I sketch, I like to write down which stamp sets I'm using. Sometimes I'll write down the color, what color I want to use, because I'll start playing with the colors, and I'll stamp it on here, so that I get an idea what my card's going to look like, and slowly build it sometimes. So I'm not, for me, I don't ever want to waste product. That's just how I am. So that's why I like to sketch, get a rough sketch going, get an idea what colors I want to use, and then I'll write down, making sure, especially if you're using different stamp sets, because you're like, oh, well, I really like the wording from this stamp set, but I want to use this stamp, to stamp. So it's good to actually have your little notes too. So,
That's true.
So
that true.
When you get to your, like, wait, what am I stamping?
Well, it's not a bad idea to write down the colors you used either.
Yeah.
Because you'll go back later thinking, what did I use? But the other thing is the Stampin' Up! Catalog lots of times, and go through there. Feel free to sit up there and case the pictures in there and create it. Sometimes if I get stumped with a set that I'm not sure what I want to do with it, I'll go see what they did and see if there's something I might want to copy.
Yep.
Or I'll go check
get
out
an idea, like, because I know, like, we got the greenhouse one, which I'll probably have to do a video of and show. That one, I was like, I'm not really sure how I'm supposed to do this.
Right.
So I went into the catalog to see how they did it, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I went and made my own card that was, similar but very different, so that was more unique to me. Right. So sometimes, like, if you're like, I really like this stamp set, but how am I going to use it? Sometimes that's what you want to do. You can always easily go to the catalog or Google it. Maybe there's somebody out there who's done it, and you can get an idea, like, oh, I kind of like this, but I'm going to tweak it. I'm going to tweak it to the way I like it, Because there are some people, like, she likes to use lighter colors, and
or bright.
Definitely something more colorful and light and cheerful, and I'm more on I kind of bounce between the two.
You're on the dark.
I like darker colors. That's where I want. That's what I want. I want darker colors. But but I'm also a contrast person. I like the dark with the light, and so they create a really good contrast. So I think that's the difference between us. But she's more. That's how, like, sometimes I'll be like, well, okay, if I'm Judy, what would I pick? What colors would I do? Like, sometimes I have to get in that mindset, Yeah, especially if I'm giving her a card, I'll try to tailor it to the way she likes it.
Yes, it's like, you have to go for the bright paper. Yeah, I like the bright paper.
Or the pastels.
The subtle type colors.
Subtles.
Yeah,
subtles.
So anyway, yes. But definitely, if you wanted the dark side, she's the one to go to. But anyway, it's one of the things that's, and from time to time, I'll go case her cards. Yeah. And I'm thinking, why do I need to sit there and rack my brain? I want to say
that's where. Where's the one card we can show real quick?
This one here.
This one was.
This is a triple layered stamped card, just to show you there.
Mm-hmm. And it was based off of. It's slightly different, but it's very similar. She's like, I like that idea. I'm gonna go make this, and it is. It's very beautiful. It's very different from what I did, but it was still like, man, you really. I think mine was staggered. I'm a staggered person.
Yeah, I think you did yours staggered, where it was left and right, sort of like So you had one piece up and one piece this way here.
Yeah.
Whereas I did mine all layered. But I did take a page out of your book, because I went and created a Christmas one with the white and red and layered it just like you did, and I have to tell you, it came out really great. I don't know that I would have done that originally, but because I saw what she did, I thought, if she can do it, I can do it.
Yep. very. I remember a movie that said that if I can learn to do it, you can learn to do it. So it's all about also finding what works for you too. Right. That's a key. So it's easy to copy somebody, and then when you start copying somebody, you start feeling like, okay, this is what I will do differently, because that's what I like, and that's what it comes. That's what sketching really helps, especially. And sometimes if you don't know what paper you're going to use, it's a good way to get your idea down, and then start going through the different papers, because I've done that too, where I don't know what paper I'm going to use yet, but I'll have this idea, I want to make this, but I don't know what paper I'm going to use yet. That's a good place to start.
And the other thing I would tell you too is the key, if you have a favorite card you have created, keep it. If it's your,
or take a picture of it before you send it off.
But you know what though, I like to keep one. I mean,
Yeah,
you
especially
take a
the
picture of
favorites.
yourself, because especially the favorites, because you see it, feel it, and all that kind of stuff. But you know, you can make a duplicate of it and send it to that person you made it for. But if it's one of your favorites,
Yeah,
one of my peach ones was my favorites, so I saved one. In fact, when I wanted to recreate it with some other paper, I had to go dig one up. I thought I gave them all away, which pretty much I did. I mean, I was fortunate to find one.
Yeah.
So it's a lesson to me. It's like, if I really have a super favorite one, is all right, fine, duplicate it, give it away, and hold on to it, because you'll most probably do it again with other papers and so forth, or other ink stamps or inks or whatever. And you know, so you still have it as an idea to refresh you of something that you created as your favorite.
Yeah.
So, anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. Not for today.
Not for today. All right. So we want to thank you for joining Jennifer and I, my favorite techie, today, learning some tips and all that we create with. And we hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, be sure to share it with others and like it and subscribe to our YouTube channel and be a follower of us. We'd appreciate that. And be sure to say hi, because we do give door prizes away this Sunday when we do the new paper pumpkin kit. When you say hi and hello to us while we're out there, we'll sit there and give away door prizes, which is always very fun, and we appreciate that. Be blessed. Go out there, create something, share, and give it to somebody. All right? See you next week. Bye.
Bye.